community of faith and its institutions, questions of theology are likely to arise. About this book. This book is written for readers who want to be introduced to some of the ways those and other questions have been asked and answered over the centuries, and especially in our own time. It makes sense, if we are not the first to pursue an issue, to try to learn from those who have been concerned with it before us. As soon as we dip our toe in theology, we begin to discover a fascinating community of men and women over many centuries, and all around the world, who have wrestled with our questions, or who have suggested new questions and responses that we never thought of. As students engage with the great thinkers of other periods and of our own, one common reaction is, "They are speaking straight to us." But it is also common to hear, "How strange! Does it make any sense? How could anyone have thought that?" I hope that by the end of this book, readers will not only have experienced some of both reactions, but will also have learned how to go beyond them. Both extreme reactions, "That rings so true," and "That cannot possibly be true," are invitations actually to do theology. That means they encourage us to think further, drawing on all the resources we can, including the best that has been thought already. Many people interested in theological questions go through their whole lives ignorant of the resources there are to help them think more knowledgeably, deeply, and relevantly. This book tries to offer readers a chance to do better than that. Above all, this book introduces theology by doing it, and inviting the reader to do it. Some introductions begin with questions about the possibility of doing theology, or the methods of inquiry, discussing what sort of reasoning and knowing is involved, or what skills are required. Those are important matters, but I will come to them towards the end of this book. Before that, I want to do two things. Part 1 will briefly describe the way I see the current religious and academic situation in the rest of this introduction, and the discipline of theology and religious studies within it, in Chapter 2. Then, in Part 2, I will do theology, offering examples of theological thinking about a selection of key issues, Chapters 3 to 7. Only after that, in Part 3, will I analyze more closely what fed into that thinking, the use of texts, scripture, and tradition, the nature of historical inquiry, the approach to experience, understanding, and knowing, and the overarching importance of the pursuit of wisdom, Chapters 8 to 9. In conclusion, Part 4, Chapter 10, will look ahead to offer a brief prophetic postscript about theology at the beginning of the third millennium. One question to which I gave a good deal of thought was whether to concentrate on the theology of one major tradition or to try to introduce more than one. Various considerations weighed in making the decision to focus discussions through Christian theology. First is the very practical one, that this is meant to be a very short introduction. Religions are at least as complex as languages and their associated cultures, and are also as diverse and long-lasting, and few people would expect a very short introduction to cover several simultaneously. My principle is, therefore, to attempt to become literate in one language, rather than run the risk of ending up with only a tourist's smattering of several. There are books in this series which deal with Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and other religions, and while the present volume is not an introduction to Christianity, it does complement them in their treatment of the thought of each of those faiths. Second, in trying to get a sense of what it is like to think theologically, it is a help to have some common framework, rather than having to start from scratch every time a new topic is introduced. This lets us go deeper and make more connections between chapters. And when we come to the reflections in Chapters 8 and 9, it avoids an impossibly complex task in relation to different scriptures, traditions, and intellectual frameworks. Third, Christianity is the largest of the world religions. Estimates of current size vary, but between 1.5 and 2 billion members seems likely. It has by far the largest number of students and teachers specializing in theology in third-level institutions, universities, further education colleges, professional schools, and seminaries, and it has, paralleled in this perhaps only by Judaism, engaged deeply in thinking theologically through the implications of modernity, as defined below. Finally, Christian theology is my own academic speciality, along with interfaith theology and hermeneutics, the art and theory of interpretation. So, this book does its theological thinking mostly through Christian examples, but it tries to do so in a way that can inspire comparable thought in relation to other traditions, as well as fruitful engagement.